Oh boy. Time Stranger. Now we're getting a little art house. It's like a little party going on tonight, because this is going hard. The first 5 minutes are pretty much a silent romp through the excellent animation, Madhouse's explosive team, in an action set piece that you will not forget too quickly. We've got some shoujo faces going on today. A person from the Year 24 group is the character designer. A little bit more soft than we're used to. The name goes by Moto Hagio. The synthwave is coming. Hi-fi, sci-fi. Oh, and I can feel it coming. This is Mori Masaki's last film. Say it's a way of going out. It's a way to leave the studio. After all that sci-fi glamour, we're thrown into school rugby in an anime, which is unusual. The action here is pretty good. A little bit different from what we just saw a second ago, but you can tell that they keep this one a little bit more grounded, a little bit more to the T. The movement of the camera is quite naturalistic. But this isn't about rugby. No. This is about time travel, of course. Didn't you see the title? We've got those blooming blossoms and cute girls. What is going to happen? Is there a romance appealing? And is this a slice of life school or something? Well, before we can wonder about that, the space child man comes from the future, and they will bring you into a kaleidoscope setting of colourful psychedelia. It's pretty immediate. I'm not sure if I saw that was going to be the angle, but yeah, they were kicked right up to, where is it? World War II. Yeah, we're back to World War II. We're wasting no time coming straight back. It's the same year, baby. Barefoot getting free right here. So as per tradition at Madhouse, this is another novel adaptation, a sci-fi novel, as you can tell. It reminds me of a genre pushing, the same kind of genre pushing we saw in Armageddon. Although this one's a bit more to the point, but I'm not sure if I'd say it's less weird. Maybe? It has its moments. So even in the horrors of war, we still get snaps of romance. The music changes, it becomes a bit more romantic until you are snapped through time. You've got these vibrant colours projected onto your face in this time-travelling minivan. If there was any way to describe this film, I would say it's Back to the Future in Japan, with a little mix of Terminator in there as well. There's a misadventure quality through the middle of the film where these little characters get thrown into a different fish-out-of-water situation. Say, for example, the end of Edo, and they kind of have to find their way through it and learn to live within the historical bounds of that time period. But don't forget, there's a maximum synthwave happening at the same time. This is on a new level of like 80s synth. We really are in the peak 80s right now, the peak aesthetic time. What I would say is I preferred the earlier half of the film's technique of sort of jumping between different time periods before laying down. It gave you a little bit of novelty as you go through each time period, before you get into the mind-bending pulse of a vortex that drags you somewhere else. The draftsman on board, though, is definitely a lost art here. The horses, the mechanicals, the explosions, and the way it can change styles so quickly, I would call that impressive. We basically get stuck into sort of a samurai period piece where the characters, unfortunately, lose their time travel ability. Although this is a double-edged sword in my book, because some of the appeal of the early half of the film is seeing all these different time periods that you jump into, but the rest of the film stays very much cemented in this one specific period of time. In fact, going through these time periods with all this little piece of information, I started to wonder if this film was supposed to be educational? Is this film trying to teach me while I watch anime? I am shocked, Purser. Shocked, I say. I do wonder where the target audience was in this film. I imagine it would be the same as the audience of the books, because it gets very violent. It's almost like a Ran-esque Kurosawa film for a time. Head choppings, death, blood, guts, whatever you want, it's all there, which was perhaps not in the first half of the film. It had a bit more of a light tone when it wasn't being art house. So while we spend most of the rest of the time in the Tokugawa era, at least there's some pretty good action scenes to tide us over. Though the longer we stay here, the more the plot seems to twist, mangle itself. We find out what the future really was like. It's the Brave New World kind of future, where there's supposed to be a perfect state, but you don't ask questions. You don't think outside of the box. You have to be happy. You're reprogrammed to be happy, to be content. Everything is a distraction. Mind erasure is their top candidate for how to control society. I guess asking the ultimate question of many sci-fi is like, where's the line for personal freedom? Which our main space boy believes is maybe less on the authoritarian side. To say anything about this film, yeah, framing, it's all good. even if my attention isn't always there.
I've seen you somewhere such a long, long time ago.
Maria? What? We have to stop meeting like this. Yep, Maria Takeuchi did 2 songs for Time Strangers, both which ended up on her seminal LP 1987's Request, a #1 album. This is the sequel to the album that most people know, which would be Variety, where the classic internet sensation Plastic Love appeared. I do wonder the funny story of how that unfolded. How did Maria become attached to this pretty much, at this point, no-name film? The songs on her album are probably more popular than the whole entire film is now. Most people don't remember Time Strangers, and I wouldn't blame them because there were literally 2 different films with pretty much the same title that came out virtually between 1985 and 1986. Maria brings the slow ballad, the gnarly guitars, Kiss Me Again, the romance, the weird several romance plots that are in this film for people from the past that this girl meets. They kind of do a bit of a bait and switch. Originally, you start following this rugby fellow. You think he's going to be the one going for the girl, but it's every person in the past. He really got beat to the draw by people who are already dead for decades. So too slow, boy. Just too slow. Another notable content of their music is that it was sang in English. Of course, Maria is fluent. That doesn't tend to happen in these sort of songs. The song we hear about 3/4 length through, Toki no Tabibito, I think that's the better of the 2. And I guess Maria must agree with me because she put that as the finale on the album Request. I give that one a thumbs up. And of course her husband, Tatsuro Yamashita, did the arrangement musically. It's not necessarily the city pop banger, but I still think it's worth its salt. With some more striking arrangements, striking musical beats that I expect from the classic love song. Time Strangers seems to have a weird divide between its goofy comedy and visceral art house. It's a clashing of errors and weird uneven piece. Sparks fly, energy glistens, 80s galore, its paint-dripped visuals, characters with their free shades, a neon glow, the horrors in front of you next to the softness of its tender moments. At some point, the pop sci-fi and the art house ignite together and burn, to the point where the pop is incinerated and the art house is left. All its energy overtakes. The more strange and esoteric parts become the focus. It gets weirder, like a feverish dream, going around and around, looping until the movie ends, and we're back at the beginning. The set pieces, brilliant. The colours, the aesthetic, wonderful. The plot, okay, I guess. It has its moments. It's hard not to get a tiny bit sentimental thinking about how far Madhouse has came. Most of these boys, they came from Mushi Productions. They all came in as manga artists, cartoonists who were just looking for an extra bit of pay. That's the same with Misaki. No Misaki, you'd have no Akio Sugino. Ashita no Joe would never be the same. That duo with Dasaki would possibly never have happened. It's all because both of them were comic book artists, mangaka, trying to find their way. When Mori entered Mushi Pro, he was pretty young, and he brought who he could. Sure, most of them started casually, storyboards, key animation. At that point, Mori was just an assistant director, and their animation styles went from still moving manga to art house experimentals, really visceral visual style. Many of their members pioneering techniques that the anime industry still uses to this day, even if they didn't do it at Madhouse. From what I hear, Mori would go on to retire from Madhouse and work in illustrated children's books. Being a director of anime, it doesn't pay the finest bills, and it's incredibly stressful and time-consuming. It takes so much dedication, and Mori was more than just a director. He did screenplays, he did storyboards, he did planning all over these projects. He did some parts on a project that I actually might talk about tomorrow, that I only just found out about. All I can say is he was a vital part of the studio, and I'm thankful for the work he put in, and the people as well that he brought to the industry. Godspeed, Mori Masaki. You really are the one. A big, lovely thank you to all my patrons, including Joven, and I will be back maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day. I'm dealing with some serious copyright issues here. As soon as they're gone, I'm hoping this gets a lot smoother. This one, I think, took about 9 times to get right. See you tomorrow, or the day after. We'll continue with Madhouse Month.